little bit about me. I did some offensive and defensive work in different capacities for a couple of years. Right now I work as a security manager for Cision. Cision is an international media company, and I'm based out of New York. I'm originally from Israel, and I tweet under this handle where is Biggles. Without Googling, if anyone can tell me later where is that reference coming from for the handle, I'd be happy to hear that. It's a funny story about the Twitter. I used to be very active on Twitter, and then maybe a month and a half ago, I challenged this guy to hack into my Twitter account. And I had all the defenses that you can imagine. And of course, the guy hacked into the account and spammed everyone that I knew. So I had to get rid of that account and start a new one. So that's kind of the story behind it. It's pretty cold in here. I just took off my shirt. I told my brother in Israel, I told him that I'm going to be in Texas. And I said, I'm excited because I live on the East Coast. And I said, it's funny, I'm going to get some sun and it's going to get hot. It's freezing in this room. What he told me, he said, he said, if you're going to Texas, then make sure you say hi to Chuck Norris. That's what he thinks Texas is. So as part of my job, I do a lot of investigations as a defender. And I did it when I was doing independent work as a consultant, part of teams, forensics team, and so on. And one of the challenges that we have as defenders is not so much to identify the anomalies. The computer that connects to a very well-known command and control center, some crazy processes that just start running in the background, they're easy to identify. And each of the vendors outside would be probably very happy to give you a solution for that. Problem is when the attackers sort of blend in with the regular noise of the environment. And a regular noise could be, just a regular process that you use to do crazy stuff like Word or Excel or PowerShell in our case. And when those processes then connect to a website that looks legit, like LinkedIn or Wikipedia or Gmail, from the defender perspective, you only see a computer connecting to LinkedIn. There's nothing too out of the ordinary about it. But the attacker can use that site essentially as a command and control center. So I did a little bit of research. I sort of looked into that, and I sort of try to understand what websites can be used as a command and control center, completely legitimate websites. And my requirement for something that can function as a command and control center are three, really. One is if it's a well-known website. The second requirement is that you can actually communicate with it. So you can steal something from the environment, upload it to whatever website, and then have your malware that's installed on a machine in the enterprise go back to that command and control center and fetch more commands out of it. And I looked, and I pretty much noticed that almost all the popular websites accept those, allows you to do that. So these are the popular websites. No, I'm joking. It's here, actually. That list is from 2004. And this is the new list from 2017. Almost all these websites allow you to abuse them in some way, to hide data in them, and then communicate with them and get data back. Command and controls, essentially. So for that, I'm going to use PowerShell over here. I'm going to keep this for a second. And I'm going to start by giving a quick demo of how I use Wikipedia as a command and control center. On the right side of the screen, I have a quick PowerShell script that I wrote And that script instantiates a new IE object and then sends keys and communicates with that IE object, which happens to go to Wikipedia. Now, I don't know if no one over here looks like they are Wikipedia editors, or you guys do anything in Wikipedia other than reading documents, reading articles. But Wikipedia has this very interesting feature. If you are an editor in Wikipedia and you want to go and edit a document, before you actually upload this document out to the internet, they have this sandbox feature. So you go and you open a Wikipedia account and you essentially get this place where you can play around with whatever articles you want to play with, upload text, display it, download it back. And that's exactly what I'm using over here. On the right side, I'm instantiating the IE object. It happens to be displayed just for the purpose of the demo. But if I'm an attacker, my PowerShell script over here would hide that window and do everything with it. Because it's a COM object that's instantiating, I can communicate using my PowerShell script with all the elements in that on the page. In this specific case, I have 3 elements that I'm communicating with. The first element would be the Wikipedia username that I'm used to log on to. Second element is the password. And third element would be the button that allows us to click in this login button over there. It allows me to click and then go into the website. Each element is identified by a name, which is reflected in the PowerShell script I have over here. So no, we're not typing anything. The script sort of types and puts all the commands for us. And in this case, it enters the username, it enters the password for us, and then it logs on to the website. Once it logs onto the website through the script, we're going to use the sandbox feature on the top part of the screen to go in and edit the sandbox. This is the sandbox, and we can edit it. As before, the script talks to that specific HTML element, changes it, and puts something in it. Now, I kind of thought what would be a quick and fun way to demonstrate something that we can steal and upload to Wikipedia. In this specific case, I'm going to steal the session cookies that another and legit IE window has opened. So the user, the unsuspecting user, in this case has another IE window that they use to log on to some websites. And we're just going to do we're just going to essentially look at the cookies that this IE window exposes to us. Cookies are essentially just text files. We're going to take these cookies and then upload them to Wikipedia. Over here, I'm identifying the cookies. And that's what the cookies look like. And my script then goes back to the Wikipedia sandbox, essentially pastes those cookies in it, right there, and then sends them. When we're done, we're going to close the Wikipedia window and exit out of it. And in real life, this whole side, this left window over there is completely invisible. I've displayed it just for the purpose of the demo. So a user would not see that window, and everything sort of happens in the background. And if I'm an attacker and I happen to be in, I'm an evil Ukrainian hackers, right? Because that's where all the evil hackers are. They're all in Ukraine or China. That's the only places that have bad hackers. No bad hackers in any other part of the world. But I have actually a good friend of mine from Israel. I was born in Ukraine, so I can say whatever I want to say about them, because one of my friends is Ukrainian. Um, but the implication of that is pretty simple. We just stole session cookies from the user, uploaded them to Wikipedia using the sandbox, and on the other side of the world, the evil attacker logs onto Wikipedia using the same credentials to that sandbox, takes those session cookies, logs to OpenIE on their end, imports those session cookies, and then continues to work as if they were the user. So that's one fun way to sort of abuse Wikipedia, unfortunately, but again, it applies to any website that accepts input and output. We're doing it using PowerShell, which is a whitelisted process. And from a defender perspective, when I look at the proxy logs or the DNS logs of that computer, the only thing I'm seeing is user communicating with Wikipedia. I don't see anything else. So that's kind of a fun way to blend in the background and sort of, in a way, bypass some controls. So the same sort of system can work for pretty much any website. Over here, I don't know if you can see, I use Stack Overflow. Everyone here knows Stack Overflow. You create a user account in Stack Overflow, and you can submit an About Me page. In this specific case, I masked some data I stolen from the environment as a PGP signature, uploaded over here. Anyone who doesn't know that that's actually a data that I stolen thinks it's just my PGP signature or GPG signature, and I can change it as I wish. And then again, other side of the wall, I take this data, and now I can do whatever I want to do with it because it's a data that I stole from the environment. All right, cool. So now I want to show you some demo, which has some to do with data exfiltration, but it also has a lot to do with PowerShell. And that's a demo I sort of like to give to demonstrate the power of PowerShell, no pun intended. And that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to put up two desktops over here. One VM over here would be my command and control center. And that VM, it's really just a CentOS, which has some PHP code that I wrote, but really nothing too complicated. On the other side of the screen over here, I'm going to have a desktop. It's just a regular user desktop. It's completely patched, 100% patched. There's no known vulnerabilities in it. Antivirus is running. It happens to be semantic, and I know that this guy over there is recording that conversation. I don't want to get sued after that, but happens to be semantic. This thing works with any antivirus. So semantic is just as good as any other antivirus. It's a great antivirus, actually. But it's right here. Cool. So what we do is pretty simple. We have oh, and by the way, these two machines, they run in the same sort of virtual network, but there's nothing that connects them except for that network connection. It would be almost the same as if one of them could have been on the internet, and that desktop over here on the right side would be just another computer. So there's really nothing up my sleeves, and there's nothing that connects them except for this virtual network connection. All right, so I don't know if you guys know, there's some rules when you do demonstrations. One of the rules is you never do a live demo because something always goes wrong in live demo. Something fucks up and it just doesn't work for some reason. But it worked a second ago, I swear to God. But fuck it, I'll do a live demo anyway. And I think the fact that I put the antivirus over here, I'm sort of jinxing myself because it's probably going to catch me. I hope it won't. Cool. So pretty simple. We sent the user a Word document, which the user opens, asks them to enable macros in order to see the content over here. And once they enable macros, I don't know if you can see over here on the left side of the screen, we've essentially established a connection with that machine. And we pretty much own it at this point. We can do whatever we want. This command and control center we have over here really just sends PowerShell commands to a PowerShell process which the Word document spins at the background. So I can start with a very simple get process. And I can see all the processes running on that machine. Over here, it's just a basic PowerShell command, get process, just to show you that it's working. And now I can do pretty much everything that a real attacker would do. So I can start by doing basic recon. I'm going to find some information about a computer by typing get computer info. And get computer info is a function that I wrote that gives me basic information about the computer. And I can see the computer process, owner, hard drives, etc. Something that information that I can later use to further attack the machine. I ran a get process to see which processes are running on the machine. And I can see that there's some antivirus going on. Explorer greenshot. Of course, the PowerShell that I'm running over here. And so on and so forth. I can use it, again, to later attack specific processes. I'm going to continue by seeing what programs are installed on that machine. And Windows, in many cases, stores the list of the installed programs in 2 registry keys, which my PowerShell script, my invisible PowerShell script in a hidden window, queries it, and then I can see the installed programs. Interesting stuff. I can see that I'm using a VPN. That's interesting. Maybe I can attack it later in some way. Another sort of interesting recon I'm going to do is just see what shared drives that machine has. Nothing too special over here again. And by the way, that Word document, we can close it, and it's not going to make the slightest of a difference. Our connection persists with the hidden PowerShell window that's open over there. So we got some really basic information about the computer, and I want to get some information about the user. So I'm going to continue by doing something like get user info. Which shows me the user that that process is running under. Some information about them, like when was the last time they set their password. The fact that their password never expires, which is fantastic for me as an attacker. So as you know, passwords are being cached in different places around the environment. Passwords that never expire means that I can get access to one system in which the password was cached. And I essentially get access to all the systems right now. So this is something that's really great and terrific for me as an attacker. I always like to look at the logs, and that's something that you can do pretty easily with PowerShell, actually, with get win event logs. Over here, I'm listing the logs, and I'm getting the count, how many records are in each log, which I can find out some pretty interesting information about. For example, if I look at the user profile, and that's just a random event log I'm interested in. User profile, so the user profile services runs every time you log onto the machine. It does some registry changes. When I look at that event log, and again, I'm doing it with my for my command and control center by just typing get win event, and I'm typing the name of that specific log. It's going to the machine, queries that event logs, and comes and sends it back to me. And that shows me who logged onto that machine and at what time. I can then use that information and create some sort of a map, some sort of a chart that will show me when the user logs onto the machine, when they leave, and I can use it to attack specifically at those times. We spoke before that about blending in with the general noise of the system. If I know that the user logs on, let's say, between 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock every day, I can create some sort of a chart that will show me when they're in the office and know to only attack them at that time, and make sure that whenever I communicate with that computer and whenever that computer communicates with me, it happens just at those times. Because again, we don't want to trigger any alerts. We don't want any red flags happening over here. So going back to the command and control center over here, and we have some basic computer information, some basic user information as well. And let's start having fun. Let's do some interesting things. So I looked at the event logs. Let's look at the wireless history by typing get wireless history. What this command does, hopefully, is get the list of the wireless networks that are cached in that system. So you connect your wireless network, you set your password, Windows, Mac, Linux, they save that information so you can later connect to it without retyping your password and so on. That information is cached and saved. As an attacker, I can take this information and take those MAC addresses and put them on a website like Wiggle, for example, and map those MAC addresses and SSIDs to physical locations. That would give me a good idea of where the user is connecting from and to, and get me a little more sort of a clue about who the user is, what they do, which is kind of cool. I did it in the past. You put these guys into their Wiggle API, and you get essentially a Google map with all the places that a user went to in the last couple of months or something like that. That's pretty cool. So we saw a little bit of computer information, a little bit of user information. Let's steal some stuff. I'm going to start by just looking at all the documents that that person has on their computer. And I'm just using it just a get child item command, which groups the results together and displays them in a nice sort of text representation over here. So we see that the user has some Excel spreadsheets, some pictures, PowerPoint presentation. We're going to go down a little bit. And let's see if we can just steal one of those documents. If there's anything kind of interesting. Look at that. We have an image file that has some network diagram in it. So let's just do that. Let's see if we can upload it from this computer. And by the way, this whole time, there's nothing visible on that computer. The person can keep running their own, sort of business, do different things. Nothing is reflected on the fact that we are completely controlling that computer remotely. Let's go back and steal some documents. This document looks interesting for me, network diagram. And I'm just going to upload that document from the computer by using upload local file. It's uploading. Let's see if it actually completed uploading, and it did. And now I can see that there is some sort of a network diagram that the computer the user has on their computer, which is kind of cool. Let's see if there's anything else that we might be interested in stealing. Kangaroo. Let's see, kangaroo. kangaroo.gif. That's probably some sort of a secret project. I don't know what it is. Let's find out what that kangaroo project is. Let's steal that file by doing upload file kangaroo GIF. All right, looked like it was uploaded. So let's see what this file is. It's actually a GIF. Kangaroos are pretty mean. I don't know if you guys ever dealt with them, but they can be quite mean animals if you mess with them. But it's true. Playtime is over because we're gonna start messing around with that person's computer a little bit. So I'm gonna start by interacting with some processes. We listed the processes that were running before using get process. Now I'm going to start just invoke random processes on their computer. So I'm gonna just start by doing something like start process notepad. So I'm just going to run notepad in. I don't know if you saw that. Notepad just popped up on their computer. I'm going to do it again. Again, completely remotely, I am starting a process on their machine, which is kind of cool. Now that I've started this process, I can also communicate with it by controlling the keyboard. So one thing that's really cool that you can do in PowerShell, very easy, it's only two lines actually to do that, is you can control the keyboard. So I'm going to do it by start sending keys. And I'm going to send keys to that specific process, the notepad process. Let's make it a little larger. So I can just start by sending A to it. Can we see? Let's send a little more keys. Let's send hello, which really means that I'm sending H-E-L-L-O. Let's send L, whatever. So essentially, I am remotely controlling the keyboard, as you guys can see. I can also send special keys like Alt and F, which will open the file menu. And then I can just send X and close it. So I can do that. I can close the process by remotely essentially going to the file menu and then press exit. Or I can just kill the process completely, which I can also do remotely by just killing the process. Yeah, so we can, it's really just what I do over here in that specific function is I'm just sending keys to any process. It could be Notepad, it could be Process Explorer, it could be Paint, Word, whatever it is that we want. And it just sends a key to it, any key. In this specific case, I sent to the Notepad, I sent, ALEX. But I can start Paint. And I can press, let's see. I hope that's the right name of the process. I don't know. L. I don't know if it's going to do anything because sending L to, it's the same, that would be the equivalent of me going to Notepad and pressing L. But that's really essentially what we do. Does it make sense? Yeah. Answers the question? Yeah. I'm just going to kill it. Cool. So next part, and any questions, feel free. Yeah.
If macros aren't enabled, you can't do any of this stuff, right? On the target.
So the question is, if macros were not enabled, you can't do any of that stuff. So the PowerShell process that communicates with the machine on the left was triggered by a macro. Right now, the Word document is closed, so at this point, macros aren't an issue. What started the process was the fact that the user enabled macros, but really any way that you have to trigger that PowerShell process would result in the same exact interaction between the machine on the right and the machine on the left. Whether it's a website that is taking over some malicious exe file, many other ways to take over a machine. As long as the user somehow triggers that specific process, which runs at the background in a hidden window, so nothing is running at this point to indicate that that machine communicates with this machine over here. Answers the question?
Yeah, would you see if you did task manager or whatever?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you would see. Yeah,
You see there's somebody else under you.
you would see PowerShell, and I'm going to get to that at the end of the demo. I'm actually going to show how to sort of figure it out. It's not that easy because you just see PowerShell running, and PowerShell, by its nature, it's signed by Microsoft. It's whitelisted. Sysadmins use it. I use it all the time on a daily basis to perform non-malicious tasks. And that's what's unique about it, is that using a process that's whitelisted and is completely known to do bad things with. Cool. Any small specific questions about it? Okay.
Are you going to go into what exactly the process that you're spawning on the virtual machine?
Yeah, I'll cover it at the end. It's really just a PowerShell process, and I can go over the code also. So I'm going to go and try to see if I can get some passwords out of it, out of that person's computer. One thing I'm interested in general whenever I do some sort of an attack is trying to understand who the user is and what permissions, what privileges they have on that specific computer. I can get it very easily by just seeing who are the local admins on that machine. And I can see that this person that I'm running under is in fact an admin on that machine. That's great because I can do a few other things that I would not be able to do if that person was not an admin. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dump the LSAS content. So Windows has this process, as you guys know, LSAS. And what a process does is essentially facilitates logging onto a machine for our purposes. And whenever you log on and you type your password, that process caches that password. When you dump the content of the process, you can then access the password using tools such as Mimikatz or whatever. There's different tools to dump that process and make sense out of the passwords that it's saving. I'm going to use a script called invoke LSAS dump, which I didn't write. I'm going to give credits to the next few functions to very great researchers that wrote this code. And what it's doing right now, it's dumping the LSAS, uploading it to the machine, which I can now take and run in Mimikatz, for example, and then extract the clear text credentials of people who logged onto that machine. Windows 8.1, Windows 10 has protection around it, which can also be bypassed. So it's not as straightforward to do it in Windows 10, but it's not, again, it's not impossible as well. So I was able to dump the LSAS because the user I'm running under has admin credentials. I'm going to keep going by try to see if I can get a hold of the SAM. So the SAM is a registry hive that saves the passwords of the local users And that way, when you take the computer, you go out of the network, you're home, and you log into that computer, your password is validated against that specific file, and then you can try to, and then you can log on to the machine. I'm going to try to access that process. Now, the interesting thing is, if I access that process right now, Windows won't let me. That process is locked. So when you try to go into that process, Windows will say you can't access it because essentially another process is locking it. So some smart guy created a function, a PowerShell function, that lets you access every file that Windows locks. And they do it by creating a low-level handle into that file. So instead of going through the Windows API and say, hey, Windows, can I access that file? It goes into the disk and says, I'm going to access the sectors or the space that holds that file, read it, make a file out of it, and then allow the users to read it. So I'm going to try to do it now. And that function is called Ninja Copy. And Ninja Copy is the that function that researcher created, and I'm going to give credits to them at the end of the talk. So both the LSS dump and Ninja Copy I had nothing to do with. I'm just invoking their functions over here. Cool. So now that the SAM registry Hive was uploaded, I can now take it and try to brute force or somehow extract the passwords out of it on the attacker machine. So, we try to do all those, funny sort of things in trying to get a password out of the user, but I don't have to. I can just ask the user, hey, would you mind just giving me your password? And in some cases, the user just will. Remember that? So now as I see these messages, by the way, like 500 times a day, when Windows just asks me whether it's Outlook or a process is asking me for my password. And if I just type my password over here, that password appears over here on the other side of the screen. Very cool password. What's that? Yeah, I'll do it again. There you go. And typing a password. And that password appears over here on the other side. Cool. So now that I have this sort of, I got these passwords, let's see if I can do another thing. So users a lot of times store passwords in password vaults. Over here, I'm using KeePass, which is, by the way, a really great password vault. And the way KeePass, like a lot of other password vaults work, is that you go into that, and whether it's auto-completes the password in a website or you copy and paste it, it uses the clipboard to facilitate that login into the website. So pretending that Notepad is actually IE or Chrome, and I'm going to use Notepad to log on to a website, I'm going to go here and I'm going to copy a username, paste it over here, and after a while, the password vault clears the clipboard. It's pretty normal. One thing I can do on the attacker side is listen to the clipboard. And then when the user copies their username and their password to a website, I now have a copy of that username and password right here. So that's great, but if someone is using a password vault, I'm not interested in 1 or 2 passwords. I'm interested in all the passwords that I have. So I'm going to go by just scanning the computer for all the password vaults that they might have on there. And I can do it by running a quick function, find password vaults. And what it does, it looks at different registry entries and just file extensions to see what password vaults are there. And then I can take that password vault and essentially upload it the same way I uploaded any other document. There you go. It's this one. It's going to the machine, searches for these files, uploads it over here. There's a problem, however. The problem is that when I now have access to the password vault, the password vault is protected by a master password, right? This password vault is useless by itself, the file, unless I have the master password vault. So I'm going to get it. And the way I'm going to get it over here is by creating a keylogger on the machine. So for the next 20 seconds, and I can change it, of course, everything that the person types on their machine will be recorded. It's going to change the font over here, a little bigger. Oops, let me try the timed out. What's your name? Samuel. So it's not scripted, it's actually a really live demo. And of course, I can use the same tactic to keylog the next time the user logs on to that password vault over here and types the master password. But again, I'm running into an issue over here. And the issue is that I have to wait until the user actually closes that password vault and then types the master password. Do I? Well. So I'm going to do something to sort of speed up the process of getting that master password from the user. And I'm going to do it by crashing or pretend to crash that KeyPass window. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to just kill that process, display a message that tells the user that that process actually ended unexpectedly, and then start that process again. From the user's perspective, they just see a crash window, that window crashed, and now it starts again. Looks pretty normal. It does happen every once in a while. And when I did it, the user gets a message that the application has stopped working. And once they click on it, it pops up again. I'm going to go back and invoke my keylogger. So when they type their master password over here, that password appears over here. And now using that key master, that vault file that I have, I can use that password to unlock it. Cool. So I'm going to wrap up with really 2 quick functions, and you guys talk to me after that. I'll come and show you more interesting stuff. We essentially controlled the keyboard before that, but wouldn't it be cool if we can also control the mouse? Well, we can definitely do that as well. No hands, no touching it, and now I wrote a function that just moves the mouse pretty randomly. And we can also click whenever we want and move the mouse again. And it's all done remotely. So I can control the mouse and the keyboard completely remotely. So this is all cool, and I know I need to finish. So I'm gonna finish him. So I'm gonna finish him by just getting a little view of what the user does at every point, but just getting constant screenshots. So essentially, almost think about it almost as a live video stream of what happens on that user's computer. And I'm just going to use that get screenshot command, which is not working right now. It's a permission issue over here that stops me from actually displaying that image. But what it does, what its get screenshot does, is pretty simple. It takes a screenshot of the computer, of the display, and then uploads it. And every second later does the same thing. So from an attacker perspective, you get a view of what a user does every second. So that's pretty much it for this talk, for this demo. There's no time for Q&A. One question? One question, all right, yes.
Are these custom PowerShell scripts that you wrote?
So the question, so some functions are built in, like the get process, start process, kill process. Others, like the take screenshots or invoke keylogger. Keylogger is not built into Windows, but pretty much so I think it's a mix. But this sort of text box over here allows me to send any PowerShell command that I write. If it's a PowerShell for a specific function, my script just interprets that function and runs it by itself. Okay, so yeah, we'll talk later. Thank you.
Hand for our speaker.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you. Please hang back if you'd like to ask some more questions. I do myself have some.